I'm not sure that we have the actual like empirical evidence to say that that once you get your PhD that you don't develop lifelong collaborations, right? Like, I think it's probably really varied. I think some people hold on to some of those relationships that they formed during their PhDs, and some people don't. But I will say, like, I can certainly understand why some people are reticent to hold on to those relationships, because some of those relationships may have been really unproductive, very difficult, very like emotionally challenging, right? There's a lot of power dynamics in the academy. And I know from mentoring dozens of doctoral students that some advisors are really fantastic and some advisors are not. Some advisors give their students a lot of agency, but also direction. And some people, sort of create really toxic, dependent relationships where grad students feel constantly like beat down and never really like they're contributing. And that can feel really icky. Like, why would you want to maintain a relationship with somebody who kind of berated you, constantly? Even if maybe they had like good intentions to try to get you to think better and to be your best self, it doesn't feel good, right? To cultivate or to hold on to a relationship in which you feel really emotionally scarred by. And so, for sure, there are. Those are some of the reasons I think people wouldn't hold on to those relationships. And I think other people, I do try to encourage people, don't like be dependent on your advisor. Really try to have a team of people who are supporting you. When I was in grad school, my advisor was amazing in many ways. And there were ways in which like he wasn't really helpful to me. And so I reached out to other professors. I also reached out to a lot of professors who are emeriti or emeritus status, because they really wanted to engage with students. Like, they were kind of at the part of their career where their legacy is what they're able to pass down to next generations. And so I had coffee with several professors who were like in their 80s and their 90s. Wow. And they would read my work and they would give me feedback, and they were like such amazing sources of wisdom. And I didn't have those kinds of like, those power dynamics weren't there in a way, because they had nothing to prove and they had a lot of time for me. So yeah, my advice to people is like, if your relationship with your advisor is not working out, like, make sure you are really diversifying the people who are on your team. Yes. And hopefully those relationships will carry on as you pursue your career, regardless of whether you stay in academia or not.
Hello, students and graduates. Welcome to PhD Lounge, the podcast of late night talks in which PhDs have a drink and talk about their research topics. I'm your host Luis, and I hope that you are having a fantastic week and going well throughout the first term of university, which we're halfway towards the end of it. We've gone through the first 2 weeks of November already, and then comes December and Christmas, New Year's Eve, 1st of January, and exams. Time flies, and we can't grasp it. Anyways, today's session is a late night talk with a PhD from Swansea University. But first, I want to summarize a few things. I've started the first week of November with a new workshop to young people about languages and cultures as an MFL mentor. This workshop was talking about Portuguese food, as well as food types around the world. This workshop was to show to Welsh young people the food that we buy and eat comes from each one of the 5 continents of the world. And they were really surprised that some of the food they eat has some similarities in other countries. For example, mackerel is used in Welsh cuisine to make fish dishes, such as the baked stuffed mackerel. Whereas in Portugal, mackerel is a popular fish type. We grill it and eat it with boiled potatoes or fry it with stuffed food as well. Moving on, I have also scheduled more late night talks at PhD Lounge in the future with several guests with different research topics and side hustles that fulfill their PhD journey and post-PhD journey as well. Those talks are scheduled for December, but obviously they will be added for 2026, or maybe at least one talk will still be released during the month nevertheless. Until there, I cannot say much about who those guests are, but stay tuned for them when they will be released. Last but not least, I was checking my PhD Lounge YouTube account and I noticed a username who listened to my late night talk with PhD candidate at the time, David Finch, about Arnold Bennett. To briefly say, that listener gave a great constructive feedback to improve my questions and the flow of my conversation skills, mentioning eventually its underappreciation with how the talk was conducted. This is what I appreciate about my listeners, regardless of their educational background, as they also have a voice and the skill to make such constructive feedback. Looking back to the video, I admit that I have no skin in the game in what comes to English literature and Arnold Bennett himself, as I researched about him with some of the bibliography that were at my range. Furthermore, I listened to every talk and individual session to spot some of the inconsistencies and repetitions I may speak, reviewing them and trying a different approach to speak clearly and backed with examples. So far, I think I have improved in preparing my questions and sharing my thoughts right after with my guests. Not saying that they will be perfect and are subjected to criticism, even from the guests themselves, who sometimes give me feedback as well. Practice and time make better the content I share with you, and to all of you, especially to this listener, thank you for your constructive feedback and also to tune in into PhD Lounge on YouTube in this case. And with this small catch-up, it's now time to introduce my new late night talk. As I said above, this new guest is a PhD candidate from Swansea University who recently submitted his PhD, and his research topic is in the field of biology. And specifically, this candidate focuses on the behaviour and ecology of predator interactions, focusing on fights between venomous snakes and mongooses. Besides the research, the candidate has been in 2 fieldworks in sub-Saharan Africa to quantify the standoffs between these 2 wild animals, and is also a photographer and wildlife presenter, having a small YouTube channel about documenting wild animals called Diary of the Adventurer, and a podcast about biology named Baffling Biology. I'll add every information on the show notes. As a note, this late night talk was recorded at a different venue, as I booked the podcast studio room of Swansea University, hoping to use it more often before submitting my thesis with the corrections based on the feedback of my examiners. So, students and graduates, grab yourselves seats, drinks, and snacks, and get ready to tune in to my doctoral bout with Nikita Bedov. Nikita Bedov, welcome to PhD Lounge podcast.
Hi, thanks for having me. I think as far as I know, I'm the first biologist on your podcast as well.
Yes.
I think you had one scientist talking about SETI and like astrophysics, which was super cool, but now you're delving into biology for once.
Yeah. So first of all, you look sharp today. You just came on coming here this time at a different environment, and it's not where I usually record my sessions and my late night talks. But now you came here sharp as always. How do you feel like wearing the
I'm matching the couch as well. Yeah, no, it's good. And no, I think it's a fantastic podcast that you're doing. It's a really good idea.
Okay, thank you so much for the compliment. And that's about it. What PhD Loungers is trying to getting many people as much as possible to share their research, but also sharing their experiences that fulfill their journey, not just sitting down, doing the research, go home, and that's it, like a 9-to-5 job. But it takes more beyond that. And after all, this is a human work that you are doing. So
for sure.
And also for whoever is listening at Aruba, we're going to give a shout out as well. Because do you remember when we were checking on the stats and you have a listener from Aruba, and we started laughing on that?
Yeah, whoever that is, get in touch. Would be cool to know. Maybe go visit Aruba.
Yes, and I think there's some cool stuff to do in Aruba. I'm not knowledgeable at all. Please do not bash me for whoever's listening, including from Aruba. But if you are from there and tuning in to PhD Lounge, then please give us insights on what to do there as a tourist.
Lots of wildlife there. I mean, they have the reefs and all the ecosystems there are fantastic.
Do you have an example to give of wildlife over there?
I mean, in terms of the coral reefs there and everything, it's a huge diversity in Aruba, and I mean in other places around the equator as well. But they have like all the sharks, corals, all the sorts of tropical fish that you can imagine.
Maybe that's one I need to ask Jack Cooper.
Oh yeah,
yeah, because he's a specialist in sharks, and we can talk about. He can talk about that topic, including Sharknado, the sci-fi film.
Yeah, you'll have a lot to say for that.
Yeah. So, as you said, you're a biologist, and you've submitted recently your PhD thesis. How do you feel about that?
Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Well, as I tend to see it, the whole point of a presentation is to make your audience see something that they didn't see before, right? And hopefully in a profound way, because if it's just an easy announcement that's not difficult to explain, why not just send a simple email or write a short memo about it? So the whole point of making a presentation or preparing a larger piece of communication is to make your audience see something that they didn't see before. And that means that means a couple of steps that are immediately derived from that. First of all, you need clarity about what is that actually? What do I need them to see? And you'd be surprised to learn how few people, not exclusively, but particularly in the science community, wouldn't be able to say that, to give a concise answer to that. So what is it that you actually want your audience to see? So, and once you've nailed that or have clarity for yourself what that is, you can ask the second question. So why don't they see it already? What do they see? What do they see that I don't? And what do they miss that I see already? And once you have that, you can kind of build a path between those 2 points. And the ultimate goal of a presentation is to lead them to what I would call the point of no return, which would probably coincide with that aha moment where you've told them everything that helps them really see what you wanted to make them see, where there is no going back for them because they've seen it in a way that they cannot unsee it anymore, and where it makes total sense because you've explained it in a way that makes sense, using words that they can understand, using images and metaphors that they are familiar with.
Yes, something that is more Exactly. It's more something that they are more familiar with. Something that is more common as they've seen, whether on TV or on YouTube. Something, in a sense, it's more of a touristic point of view. It's kind of like when they go to an event, they're attending a speaker, and you feel like I'm a tourist here, and I want to hear what you have to say. And then something comes up and they say something that sparks them and I say, aha, that's what I want to know. And so basically,
and that is that is a great approach. And that is so starkly different to what most people do. So most people, when I ask them how they would go about preparing a presentation, they tell me similar things. They first of all, they start with a presentation that they've already given a couple of weeks ago. And then they fill up all the other details that have come up since. And so until they discover, whoa, that's way too much information for 25 minutes. And then they start cutting and it's still too much. And so basically they have that problem of overwhelming their audience because there are so many things that are interesting and great and fascinating about my field, which makes sense. I mean, you're doing a PhD about it. You're researching 5 years on it. Of course, there's more interesting things to say about it than you've got time to say it.
Yes.
But that approach that you've outlined is a very different approach, where you basically turn that upside down and you don't even bother about all the things that you can say, but only ask yourself, what is that one thing that makes that tourist look over, come closer, and think to themselves, well, that is interesting. I want to know more about that.
Sure.
And so getting clarity and starting there. So what is that one thing? And often it's really literally one thing only.
With submitting, it's a mix of emotions. I think there's still a lot to do, and I'm aware of that. Also, for trying to get publications out of it, it's a big thing of anyone's PhD.
Yeah.
Because, of course, to be competitive later on, you need publications, especially in the scientific world. And that will be a big focus for me. But it's weird because you've been working on this for so long, and there's still so many things that I think I can improve.
Yeah.
And I think it's something important, I guess, to consider for people, that you kind of almost have to hold back and you think like, okay, this is good enough. It's good enough. You submit it. It's fine. You pass the PhD. You can then work on it more if you want to, and it's fine. And you can kind of move on. And it's just kind of getting into that mindset for me is quite difficult. I tend to be quite a perfectionist or something. So yeah, but I mean, it's fantastic now having a bit more freedom.
Yeah. And you also think you get entertained is because you're doing that. And then you're adding other things as well that fulfills, as we were saying initially, fulfills that doctoral journey. But then that comes to an end and say, okay, what now? Right?
Yeah.
So I'm in that stage as well when now I've passed the Viva a month ago and say, now I have the corrections. And then, okay, what's going to happen now? That's the mysterious journey that comes to us in the PhD context, of course. And so probably you're going to feel that as well after passing the Viva.
Yeah, absolutely. I need to figure out what I'm doing next. Yeah.
And so tell us about your background and where this interest in biology and especially the research you have done and about wildlife animals, including your hobby. You said you're a photographer as well. Where did this come from in order to decide in order for your decision to pursue a PhD?
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, my whole life since I was a baby, pretty much, I would, try to catch animals and like catch lizards and play with them and frogs and things like that. And also a huge credit, I mean, to my parents, especially to my mum, for allowing me always to keep pets at home. And when I was little, we had, like a chinchilla, we had a snake at one point, we had fish and a rat and like a cat and all sorts of different things. And back home in Spain, also occasionally in spring, we sometimes rescue like seagulls if they crash into buildings or something. We rescued a nightjar once, which are these cool little birds, and released it in the mountains.
Right.
And so I've kind of always been exposed to animals, and you just can't help but fall in love with them sometimes, and it's really special. Also, when I was young, I grew up watching Steve Irwin. He was by far my biggest hero. was, is, and always will be, I think. He did just so much. And yeah, just no one can compare. But I mean, obviously, there's many others as well. I watched Nigel Marven, Steve Backshall, of course, the Sir David Attenborough, and all of these people. And yeah, and I really wanted to follow, I mean, particularly Steve Irwin in his footsteps. And then later on as well, I started watching another guy called Austin Stevens, who's a herpetologist from Namibia originally. And he focused on snakes, and he traveled the world looking for the most dangerous snakes. And you can see how it's inspired me. I mean, it's something fantastic. And that's kind of the sort of thing that I wanted to do. And then I made myself a challenge when I was 15 years old I made a list of like the 15 coolest snakes that I considered at the time, and gave myself the following 15 years to find them. And kind of slowly have been working through the list. And so basically things like this that I've always kind of tried to spend as much time as I can in the natural world. And then with photography and filming as well, I think it's a natural part of it, because you're there with the animals anyways. If you're working with them or you're finding them, like you might as well film them, you might as well photograph them. It doesn't really take that much more effort. I mean, obviously it takes a huge amount of creativity and everything to be good. I don't claim to be a great photographer, but it's something that really comes with it. And I do think also that most biologists, especially those who work in the field, I think also have a duty perhaps to do that sort of thing, to share the beauty of nature with people, because most people nowadays are really isolated from nature, and that's the problem, right? Most of the global population lives in cities. You don't get nature, and that's where the problem starts. That's where people are not appreciating nature, and they're not respecting animals, and they're not thinking of them as something to care about because they have no experience of them. Why would they? That's why also actually zoos are quite important, that you at least can find a connection with animals and showcase them that way. So all of this basically led me to always try and work with animals. That's really ultimately what I want to do. And then for the PhD, I mean, to be honest, also from a young age, I was always quite good at school. And again, my parents, especially my mom, perhaps almost had the expectation that I would be quite erudite, quite scholarly, and it worked out quite well in the end. So I always kind of assumed that I would end up doing something like this and going into academia. And it ended up happening, and it ended up working out. So I think, it was a kind of ultimately so far, kind of a happy ending to all of this.
So you grabbed all that experience and then decide, okay, I need to do something with this, and getting inspiration from, the big names, all of it. I would assume, did you also, when you were doing photography as well and taking pictures of animals, did you also get inspiration from Joel Sartore? Because he's a well-known photographer,
yes,
for National Geographic.
Yeah, for sure.
And did you also took some inspiration from the recent late Jane Goodall?
Jane Goodall.
Goodall. Yeah. Jane Goodall. Yes.
Yeah,
she passed away recently.
Yes, no, and I mean, Jane, especially for Jane, I have a huge amount of respect, because she's one of those people that has spent most of her life out in the field working with the animals that she cared so deeply about, studying, particularly like chimpanzee, bonobo, behaviour, dedicating her life to it. And she was working all the way until her death. I mean, she was still on tour, giving speeches and everything and inspiring people.
Yes.
And I mean, that's fantastic. It's similar to Steve Irwin. I mean, he died also doing what he loves. Yeah. And honestly, that's like the best way to go. When you're loving what you do. So yes, no, for sure. Absolutely. And I think, and also going back to Joel Sartore and the photo art project, I think it's something really important. And again, it showcases like his aim for that is to try and photograph as many species as possible around the world, to try and at least preserve them in memory if some of them even go extinct.
Sure. And even give it a brief knowledge of the different animals that exist across the world. There's and even species that are related to those predators, the mammals and the herbivore.
Yeah, there's a huge diversity.
There's a huge diversity, and not that it's quite limited and doesn't reach us, at least from my concern, in the schools here, not just here, but across the Western world, that probably we don't even other ones that were quite extinct throughout history. So
yeah, for sure. And also in the Western world, to be fair, and really anywhere. I mean, as humans, we tend to really vilify some animals as well, and that's the other problem, of course.
Vilify.
Yeah, I mean, particularly with things like snakes. I mean, who likes, most people are either afraid of snakes or they hate them or they kill them, and it's a big problem around the world.
Sure.
With many other animals. I mean, same for sharks, same for bats and all these other things, that we don't tend to instinctively like. And so people like that and efforts like that really help to try and promote it. And that's something that I would really love to do as well. I mean, ultimately, that's kind of the goal. And with the photography, with all the filming and stuff that I do as well, it's to try and show these animals, particularly snakes, in a very kind of good light, hopefully, to people. Show that they're not as dangerous. They're not monsters. They just want to kind of be left alone in peace. Same as you and I, same as humans.
And I think that is still a long road to solve this problem, which is endless, realistically speaking.
Yeah, unfortunately, yeah.
And so, why focusing in Africa? Is it the whole continent, or specifically in the middle of Africa, eastern, western, and even southern Africa? Is it where? Because you said, I'm studying meerkats and cobras, pythons, different types of cobra models, and also of meerkats. But why specifically in these particular areas of Africa? Is it because are there a huge amount of meerkat and cobra models population there?
Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Moreover, writing feedback also pushes the supervisor to communicate better with the student if they write it in an oriented-based way, in the sense that it has to be professional and academic, which teaches the student to figure out a different approach to address the argument, reflecting too if the supervisor discusses the feedback verbally with the student. The more feedback the supervisor gives in a research proposal, but from an oriented-based, as well as balanced and constructive perspective, the more the student is likely to engage with and figure out alternative ways to address the academic gap while writing the research proposal effectively to submit it afterwards.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, to be honest, so Africa has always been kind of, to me at least personally, sort of the last frontier of wilderness in the world. It's, I mean, you grow up learning about it, right? About all these incredible animals. I mean, it's really the only continent also still having megafaunas, having like large predators and large animals, which have pretty much gone extinct in most other places in the world. So it's, it's such a mecca for truly exotic and truly sort of dangerous animals. So and this is the thing, right? So when I started my PhD, I had never been to mainland Africa before.
Wow.
My first experience was when I landed in Johannesburg airport for my first field season. That was the first time I ever set foot in mainland Africa. I really had no idea what to expect. And honestly, I fell in love with this place. I mean, particularly the Kalahari in Southern Africa, in South Africa. And, you can go across the border to Namibia and Botswana as well. And it's such a fantastic place. I have really fallen in love with it. I would love to go back if I can, any way I can find for going back.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then the thing for my research is to really understand the behaviors that I was looking for. You need to be able to observe these animals in the wild. And that's really hard because obviously wild animals are not going to let you just sit there and watch them. Most of them are scared and so they will go away and whatever. So what you need are habituated populations.
Yeah.
What this means is that they are used to humans being there. They don't care about the human being there. They're still exhibiting natural behaviors that you can observe. Sure. And there aren't that many of those around the world, particularly for wild animals like mongooses and things like that. The main ones are in Southern Africa. So you have the Meerkat Project in South Africa. There was the Dwarf Mongoose Project also in South Africa that's recently closed. The Banded Mongoose Project in Uganda, where I also worked. So these are quite rare field sites. So you don't really have much choice of where to go, to be fair, if you want to do this sort of work. Otherwise, the other option is you have to set it up from scratch.
Yeah.
And within a PhD, it's just not feasible. You don't have enough time. It takes maybe decades to set up a field site like this properly.
Sure.
And also then gain enough data on all the individuals, because that's the other power of this. And something I looked at is, what's the actual, for example, long-term mortality? What are they dying from in this field site? And we can only gain that by studying the populations for generations. And the Meerkat project has existed, for example, for over 30 years now.
Oh.
So you have 30 years of data.
So it's quite recent?
I mean,
to an extent?
okay, I guess for someone who studies ancient history, yes.
Yeah.
For someone in biology, no, this is a long time. I mean, most field sites you set up for maybe a couple of years and then it dies out because the funding goes away.
Oh, I see.
Whereas this has really been a huge effort to establish it properly, keep it running, always have volunteers out there as well that collect all this long-term data. So they go out every day and they monitor all the meerkats, what they're doing, all of their behaviors. If any die, then what have they died from?
Sure.
If it's predation or a disease or something like that. So we have all of this data, and it's a huge, incredible data set to work on. And then you can answer questions like, what's actually impacting the population?
Yeah.
What role does predation play? What role do snakes play on predating them? And so it's really easy to do this kind of work in a place like that. So it wasn't much of a choice, but also, as I say, I was always kind of enamored with the idea of going to a place like that. So it just kind of, it was a happy marriage of convenience and just passion to go there.
Wow. And yeah, for us ancient historians, we treat data and, well, data in the sense of archaeological data, literary data, oh, this is too old. So it's been constantly updating. But from what you said, that has to do with the periodical mutation of the behaviors of meerkats and their biological composition as well. I would assume, right? And because you said studying the cobras, the pythons, and their interactions. You were talking about predation, which I can ask you that about now, because you said mutual predation system. And what is that? What's mutual predation systems? Could you explain that? And then we go for the other one as well.
Yeah, no, for sure. Yeah, I mean, it's something that, because it's quite central to my work, I will probably keep referring to. So it's good to define. I mean, so the central idea, I think, also to talk a bit about this idea of threat discrimination is also quite key to all of this to understand. So first, I mean, this is something universal really to all life, is you have to be able to know what's a danger, what's a threat to you or not. You have to be able to distinguish it, right? Same as you and I, if you're trying to cross the street and there are cars coming, you have to know if you can run across or better let the car pass or whatever. So it's the same principle. If an animal faces a potential threat, they have to be able to figure out how to respond to it. And in most cases, it's quite simple to think about. You have prey species, which are pretty much most animals, get hunted and killed and eaten by something else.
Sure.
There's always something bigger than you, You can think of any sort of example in the world. It's literally anything, including plants as well. They get obviously predated on by herbivores. So pretty much all life has to evolve ways to pick up on threats, to distinguish them, but also first to just kind of see what the threat is.
Sure.
You can think of all different ways. I mean, visual, for example, detection of threats, olfactory, so smells, if you can smell a predator or something, if you can hear them as well.
Okay.
All the senses basically that you and I also use to see the world around us. We are trying to distinguish, what's a danger and what's not. And so animals do the same thing. Everything does this. And you can imagine in this very dynamic and dangerous world where animals live in the wild, you can get killed very easily. You can, a predator could come along and snatch you up, and that's it, and you're gone. And there's no more survival, there's no more reproduction for you, so that's it. So you're trying to avoid that. And so all animals try to do this, right? But this idea of mutual predation slightly changes this a little, and it's the idea basically that you have species that don't just follow this normal idea of a food chain where you have, almost like a ladder with rungs of the levels of animals. So, for example, you have the plants at the bottom, herbivores feed on the plants, carnivores feed on the herbivores. Then you have like apex predators that feed on the carnivores, right? So you can imagine you can build up a food chain, right? For example, in the sea, right, you have like anchovies are really small fish. They get eaten by sardines. Sardines get eaten by like a bigger fish, like a barracuda or something. The barracuda gets eaten by a shark. That's the food chain. But you can also find examples, and this is kind of the central thing to my thesis, what led to it, what makes it, I think, quite intriguing, is that you have cases where you have species that feed on each other. So there's no this food chain, it's not linear, but it's almost like a circle that you have two species, for example, like mongooses and snakes, that can very easily eat each other and kill each other in the wild. Sometimes a big snake, can go hunting and can catch a mongoose and eat the mongoose. But the mongoose can also go and catch the snake and eat the snake. So it can go both ways. And this makes it really challenging at first to understand, perhaps. But I mean, at the end of the day, it's actually quite simple that it's still all about this threat discrimination. If you're a mongoose and you see a snake, it can be your prey. Yeah, so you can potentially eat it, but also it can eat you. So it makes it a very weird situation.
Yeah, but for us, that's a bit confusing because we as people who are not specialists in biology or have very limited knowledge about biology with just the external information of the outside, snakes have bigger teeth. They have two teeth that are filled with venom as a defense mechanism, and they are the real predators, and that affects humans. So that's information that we will receive, that they are the predators. But the mongooses, or any type of mongooses, you said yellow mongooses, damn it, I forgot the other one.
Yeah, all the different species.
All the different species, and banded mongooses, that was what I was looking for. We tend not to know, or we do not have enough information about, okay, these might be predators as well, unless we watch YouTube videos and awakes our curiosity to watch that, to watch them. Because for us as humans, I'm speaking from as an uneducated person in the field that you've researched extensively, and hopefully will be for more decades, that we see to them, it's like complimenting the pussycat from Shrek, for example, or complimenting a cat, saying like the cat, oh, he's cute, he's docile, until the cat sharps his claws, and the mongooses show their teeth and their claws as well. I was watching this, now that I'm trying to understand, I was watching recently a video on yellow mongooses and like the simplest cobras, the cobra capella, right? Rattlesnake. Right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And like showing the whole thing and the venom, it didn't affect, but the animal was a bit scared and his mind was playing tricks on him because he just hit a bit of the leaf that was in front. The mongoose assumed that it was the venom or the snake bite. Yeah. So that's what we trying here to understand. How can we perceive that, whether there's a threat on both sides, and the food chain, as you said, isn't linear. It always keeps changing all of a sudden.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, that's really interesting to hear from me as well, because in my mind, even before I started the project and everything, the mongooses were always portrayed as kind of the winners of these interactions.
Sure.
If you watch, for example, any like National Geographic documentaries or something like that, or Meerkat Manor, which was a famous production as well, they always show, and they over dramatize this so much. I mean, they show the meerkats, for example, like swarming and mobbing a cobra together. And they always are shown almost like to win and chase it away and whatever. Sure. So to me, it always was kind of the opposite. The mongooses are always the victors. They're kind of the bigger predators than the snakes. So it's interesting to hear the opposite. But I think, so to answer your question, it's in terms of threat discrimination, I guess what we've learned from this perhaps is that it's not static. It's very much context and experience dependent for these guys, for the mongooses. So they learn how to interact with snakes. And in the wild, you see this as well. You will see meerkats, for example, the group come and interact with the snake, and the pups will come.
Yes.
And they will try and interact as well, and they will watch the adults fighting the snake. And so I think there's definitely an element of learning. However, what I've also found, because I did experiments with these model presentations in captivity as well. So I presented captive mongooses in zoos with fake snakes and saw how they interact with them. And even then, they still defended in some cases against, for example, the cobra model. And they try to predate the harmless snake. So even in captivity, they're interacting with these, which means that there's also a genetic component because there's no experience in captivity. They don't have any sort of cultural learning or any prior really experience with real snakes in a zoo. So I think it's definitely both. What we're showing is that it is quite complex in that sense in how they interact.
Sorry, Nikita, does that also happens with cobra models when they are in captivity?
Yeah, so that's the thing. Yeah, exactly. So in captivity, it's less, and it depends on the species as well. So that's the other thing. So both in captivity and in the wild, what I also try to do is do these experiments with different species of mongooses. I had 3 different species in captivity: meerkats, banded mongooses, and dwarf mongooses. And then in the wild, I had the yellow mongooses, banded, and meerkats. And comparing the two and comparing between the species is quite interesting because they reacted differently. For example, in captivity, banded mongooses didn't interact at all with the cobra and the python models. And really with most of the models, they didn't show much behavior at all towards them. They maybe came and kind of foraged around it and they didn't really care. In the wild, it was completely different. In the wild, they came and they interacted. They tried to hunt the cobra model. They were a bit more alert around the python model, so it works a lot better. So perhaps there is actually a very strong experience dependence in the species. In meerkats, it was the opposite. In meerkats, in both captivity and the wild, they had basically the same reaction. They defended against the python and the cobra. They tried to predate the harmless snake. They tried to predate the bird model, which I had as a kind of true prey control. And so for them, perhaps it's a lot more innate in how they respond.
So quite of a biological inheritance.
Yeah, exactly. So something genetic, something that they have from birth, pretty much, an instinct.
But they also are. I also saw this, and I was wondering if you can confirm. Are they also the mongooses, those types of mongooses? Are they also? Do they have like an inheritance from hyenas?
From hyenas?
Yes.
Oh, I mean, okay, so evolutionarily, they are closely related to hyenas. You're right. So hyenas are kind of the sister group, as we call it in phylogenetics. So they're kind of the closest relatives that are not mongooses.
Right.
Are hyenas, actually, and that whole clade. And you have fossas as well in Madagascar.
Oh, sorry, I laughed because I remember the film.
So like, the fossas like from the film, exactly. And they look, and even like from the film, if you remember, they look kind of like a mongoose, right? They're kind of this like weird mix between like a fox and a cat kind of thing, which pretty much what mongooses are. So they're closely related, but they are different. So they share a common ancestor that existed more than, I think, about 15 million years ago. And they split. And so since then, for all of this time, they evolved separately. And they evolved, obviously, into quite different species. Yeah, so there are some similarities overall, but also some major differences. For example, in terms of their interactions with snakes, all mongooses share resistance to snake venom. So they can get bitten by a snake and they will survive. If the same snake bit a human, we would probably die because it's actually quite highly toxic venom. But for mongooses, there are various different mutations. For neurotoxins, for example, which are the venoms of things like a cobra, venoms that attack your nervous system, they actually have a mutation on the neuron, on the like postsynaptic part of the neuron, where you have basically these like neurotransmitters the chemicals that send signals between nerve cells. And usually they would come and they would kind of attach and activate the next neuron down the line.
Okay. What
venoms do is they attach themselves and they overstimulate the nerves. And so, for example, if it happens to your heart, you go into cardiac arrest, your muscles contract and they cannot release.
Okay.
And so you just die almost instantly because your muscles just cannot keep relaxing and contracting. And what mongooses have is actually a sort of like a spike in that place that allows the neurotransmitter, the normal chemical, to still come in and interact with the nerves. But the venom protein is actually blocked and it cannot go into that place and cannot activate the nerves. So it protects them from the effects of the venom protein. And so all mongooses share this, for example. We don't, hyenas don't. So actually closely related other branches of mammals don't have this. But mongooses do, very likely because of their co-evolution and their interactions with snakes over all of this time.
So probably they get bitten quite often.
Yeah.
Then when they go to hunting, and then when it comes to that, their system is so adapted to the wild. I'm not sure if, because you said in captivity it is a different story, right?
Yeah, but they still have this venom resistance in captivity, so that's purely genetic. So there's no experience based on that. They all have it, and that's why all the species, even mongooses that no longer really interact with snakes, they still have retained this mutation, this trait. Because it's still really useful in case you do get bitten. It's a huge advantage not to die, obviously. So it's something that's quite important for them. They still get affected by it. This is another thing that we were able to look at with the long-term data as well, is that if they get bitten, what actually happens? What injuries do they get from snake bites?
But from all types of venom, from the different types of snake?
Yeah, so they have, it's not actually known whether they have resistance to all snake venoms.
Okay.
The one we know about for sure that has been studied is neurotoxins. So which are venoms of elapids like cobras, mambas, for example, also are neurotoxic. There hasn't been any study done on resistance to, for example, viper venom, which have hemotoxins, for example, which attack your blood, or cytotoxins, which attack like tissues and muscles and parts of your body like that. We don't know. It is very likely, however, because they do survive those bites as well, and they survive them quite easily, which indicates that they absolutely must have some sort of resistance, that we just don't know how it works.
Wow. And then how that affect pups?
For pups, it's different. So for pups, what I've seen from the data is that, obviously they have resistance, but it works much like our immune system, right? So it's something that becomes stronger as we become bigger, as we become older. Immune response, for example, in babies, even in humans, if you get an illness, it usually affects babies more than adults. They are more at risk of diseases than adults tend to be. With obviously there are some exceptions, but as a general sense, babies tend to be a bit weaker. And it's the same for mongooses. So for pups, what I found from the data is that they have 100% mortality. So if a pup gets bitten by a venomous snake, it will die. There have been no survivors of bites. Whereas in adults, the survival goes up to about 50%, which are actually pretty good odds. So it's basically 50-50 if you survive a potentially lethal envenomation. That would kill a human for sure. A mongoose has 50-50 chance. So it's quite good. So there is some variation. So what I think likely happens is that, pups are just too weak. They can't. Their body's not strong enough to survive all the symptoms that they get from the envenomation, whereas adults tend to be better, and this resistance helps them. But as I say, it's not bulletproof. So some of them will die from it, or they will get major injuries. For example, usually if they get bitten, they have a lot of swelling.
But they get a defect from as long as they grow up.
Yeah, perhaps. Yeah, something like that.
So how long is the time? How long does it take for a mongoose to grow from pup till adult phase?
To adult. So they have different stages of life. For example, for meerkats, from the moment they're born until about 1 month of age, they tend to stay mostly in the burrow. And what they do actually, because they're group living mammals, parts of the group, some individuals will stay behind and they will babysit the pups, which is really cute. And so they'll stay and kind of look after them and protect them. And then after that, they will start to come out. They have like first emergence that's recorded. And then they will start kind of trying to forage a little bit around the burrow. And then later on, usually by around like 3 months of age, or it varies a little bit, they start foraging and becoming a little bit more independent. But even so, really until much later, until about 6 months, they will have individuals looking after them. And they will kind of chaperone the pups around, and they will feed them as well. So if an adult finds prey, it will give it to a pup. And that's how they teach pups as well. And pups learn from adults directly as well by watching how they, for example, kind of disembowel a scorpion.
Sure.
Scorpions are also venomous and highly dangerous. And you have to know how to attack it and how to kind of neutralize the scorpion, how to bite its tail off so it cannot sting you. And pups will watch the adults and they will learn from that behavior, and then they can do it themselves later on.
But that's also interesting because they start small, because the scorpion is a smaller animal in terms of size than the cobra itself. So they don't go for the bigger prize, I'd say. And who usually does that are female mongooses, the mothers that take the pups to hunt. And they, as you said, they hunt for them and the pups observe. So they're probably going to start first with the scorpion and how to retrieve the venomous sting in order for them to, okay, let's start off dissecting the scorpion at least, and then you can get a share of this or that.
Yeah, so that it varies a little bit. So first of all, actually, most mongooses are insectivores, meaning that their main prey, their main diet is actually insects.
Okay.
Most of them don't tend to go for snakes anyway. It's more on these kind of rare occasions where they see that they can overpower the snake, then they can try. But it's also, as I say, it's a huge risk. So that's where all of this like threat discrimination, all of this comes into play, because it's a lot more dangerous. If you have all of this safer food to eat, you know, like crickets and worms and scorpions and things like that, then you obviously focus on that more. You don't really want to risk and try and overpower a big dangerous snake. So most of their food comes from insects, especially termites, for example, in Southern Africa. That's a big food source. But scorpions, I mean, compared to a meerkat pup, which is maybe kind of like when they're born, I mean, when they emerge as well, they're kind of the length of maybe like your index finger, not much bigger than that.
Yeah.
A scorpion, they can grow quite big as well. It can almost be the same size as a pup, you know, a really big scorpion. So it's actually quite a big prey item for them. So they try to start even smaller than that and build up to a scorpion.
Sure.
And then, but it's that, I mean, that's even for adults, that's one of their favorite foods. Scorpions, for some reason, are super tasty to them. I don't know why. I didn't try them myself.
Well, I think we ain't gonna even try that, because I mean, when you see scorpion, okay, that thing is ugly and then it's so venomous. I'm gonna even try it, because we can also.
Hey, I wouldn't say it's ugly.
We can also die. I mean, it's like the human assumption of it, as we were saying initially at the beginning of our talk, and then saying, well, scorpions can sting and kill humans as well.
Yeah, for sure, sure.
Right?
Yeah.
Tell us a time that you went to when you went to Africa, in South Africa or somewhere in the continent, where you had to study these behaviors, the snake bites, the captivity mongooses.
The habituated mongooses, yeah.
Yes. And just tell us about that experience, and then how you tried to make that understandable for your visitors. I know you haven't the Viva yet, but yeah. I mean, so first the experience itself, as I say, I mean, it was magical. I really, have truly fallen in love with the place. But it was difficult. I mean, on the organization side of things, it was quite tricky as well. And I think this is something perhaps quite important to bring up for PhD students in general, especially in sciences and in more practical sciences, like biology tends to be. There's also this whole consideration of, you know, trying to organize experiments and how to conduct them. And it's difficult. It's tricky, especially if you don't have much funding or you don't have much experience or something like that, then it can be quite difficult. You also have to deal with all the ethics, of course, because well-being of the animals is really important to us. For, well, at least some animals, still ethics hasn't caught up with, like insects and stuff like that. Sure.
As far as ethics is concerned, they don't have feelings. But anyway, but let's not go into that. But yes, but for things like mongooses, of course, they are mammals. They're sentient. So you know, so you have to pass all these checks, and fieldwork itself is really hard to organize because it's really unpredictable. They're wild animals at the end of the day. you don't know when you're going to be able to find them or do your experiments. The weather might change, it might start raining or something. They will hide in the burrows.
Sure.
Or they're just having a bad day or something. Or an eagle flies overhead and they just all freak out and then you can't do your experiment. So it's all of these really make it quite difficult, but very dynamic. For me, it's something that I love. I mean, this is what makes it interesting.
Sure.
But I'm aware that it's not for everyone, and it is something that you need to consider. There's more difficulties perhaps in this way with experimental science. That tends to be a lot more unpredictable, perhaps, than having already well-established sources that you can go to. You can go to like Almira or like a big city and study the history and find the resources that they had and everything. Whereas, this tends to be slightly more unpredictable. But then for the experience itself, I really enjoyed it. It was, as I say, some tricky aspects, but in the end I managed to reach some good agreements with the managers of the field sites. I was allowed to go out there and do my experiments. I worked in exchange part-time for them. It helps them to collect their long-term data, which honestly also was a fantastic experience. And just gives you more opportunity to spend time with the animals. And that was really good. And I think in general, it's, as I say, it can be a little tricky and can be a bit scary at first, seeing like, how do I organize this for a PhD project? But I think it came together, and it worked quite well. And for building up the thesis, also, I mean, it's tricky because you go from kind of running around in the fields, chasing after snakes and mongooses and everything, and then suddenly you have to put this together into a thesis that's cohesive, that makes sense, that presents all these findings in a way that you can then defend in the Viva as well, and tell other people about. And that's also quite difficult, and that's a skill that's I had to learn. I can't say that I was particularly good at it, but it's something that obviously you improve through the experience.
But you didn't have to run after the mongooses, right? You're just like going.
You do. I mean, especially for yellow mongooses, man, those things go.
But do you have to run like really going after them?
I mean, okay, so with meerkats, technically, you're not allowed to run around them because it can scare them.
Okay.
With the yellow mongooses, however, you have to like. If a yellow mongoose starts going off into the bush, if you don't run after it, like if you don't move fast, okay, you're maybe not running, you're trying not to run, not to scare the animal, but like you have to move fast. Otherwise, it's thick a bush. You're going to lose the mongoose, and then good luck finding it again. Then you have to get out your, like what we use is telonics, so it's like a big radio antenna that you carry around with you, and the mongooses have a radio collar which emits a radio signal, and the antenna picks it up, and you have this receiver, so you can move the antenna around and you can pick up the direction of the individual, and the intensity of the signal increases the closer you are, so you can know basically your distance away and where they are. So that's how we find them. In the old days when they didn't have those radio collars, that was even harder. Then you just kind of go into the bush, and how do you find like a small mongoose in the African savannah? It's hard. That's why they habituated them as well, so that you can actually even call them. They have this like yum yums call that they do. So you go like yum yums, and the mongoose will run up to you because they will expect a bit of food. They give them like a little bit of egg, for example.
Okay.
You boil the eggs in the morning and you take them with you, and you give it a bit of egg as a reward for coming. And then it eats the egg, and then it forgets about you, and then it starts foraging. So sometimes you have to run. I mean, it's
so it's a kind of a mini captivity aspect. Then
I would be
not say to the extremist way, but like in a sense of this yum yum time, and they get the yum yum, and then in order for them to memorize to know where they at to catch the sounds and all of that, they have to give them a yum yum, and then
or use the radio collars.
We say yum yum because it was fun.
Yeah. No, it was super fun. I'd be a little bit careful about phrasing it that way. I mean, they're not captive; they can go if they want to. And equally, they don't need to interact with the researchers. They don't have to do that. They get absolute freedom of what they do and what happens to them as well. I mean, if a predator comes along, you're not going to stop the predator either. So you're allowing nature to take its course as much as you can. However, obviously, there is very naturally an effect of you being there. So I do believe also that, all the volunteers and everyone being there with the mongoose groups and following them around does reduce, for example, predation. a little bit, particularly from aerial predators, because a bird is not going to come and attack them if there's like big scary human next to them.
But that increases the threat discrimination. Does that increase?
I don't think no. So I don't think it affects that much, because they don't perceive us as a threat, and they still perceive all the natural threats as they would. So I don't think their behavior changes that much in general. So that's, I think, it's the good thing. That's why we can do all these experiments. We're still getting very wild and very natural responses, just that they are used to the humans being there.
Right. But they also, when they put the radio communicator, as you said, does that also carry a camera?
No.
So no GoPros at all.
So we have camera traps in some of the burrows. And also now what they did recently at the Kalahari field site is they've put up a whole grid system of camera traps across the whole field site, spaced out, I think it's 1 kilometer between each camera, facing east and west. So you can cover the whole reserve. And the idea for that is actually just to get some sort of idea for what other animals are out there and in what numbers. So actually to start building up this image of the whole ecosystem together, and the more general processes that may be going on, how these animals may be interacting, building actually into mutual predation as well into all of these, is really getting this wider picture of what's going on in the food web as a whole, like all of these different interactions, what other animals there may be, other predators, other prey items that we may not otherwise observe because they are shy, and all the other animals there are not habituated to humans, so they will run away and they will hide away from you. It's only the mongooses that we can observe, so this will help a lot. But no, in terms of putting cameras on mongooses, I think for now it would be way too tricky. They have put actually microphones on them though.
Okay.
So they have put literal little microphones, and you can record their vocalizations.
Sure.
And because they're social, they do use a lot of different vocalizations.
Wow.
They have almost like their own language for communicating. And you can record this and you can play it back to them as well. So you can record an individual, for example, giving an alarm call, and then you can play it back on a speaker and watch the group's reaction. And they will react in many cases as if it was that individual calling. And they will like scatter or whatever the correct response is. They will do that. So that has been done.
Oh, that's nice. And it is quite advanced in terms of trying to do the research, but also they do that not just to communicate, but see how they behave towards one another, isn't it? But how does that also influence? Do they also communicate when going in a group hunt towards cover models or any other sources of food?
So in a way, mongooses don't, well, at least meerkats don't tend to hunt in groups, as in, so they go foraging together in the group. But in terms of catching the prey, it is kind of a zero-sum game, in the sense that like if one finds a prey item, he will just catch it and eat it himself. There isn't really a group hunting strategy, but there's group defense. So this is really the main power of living in a group, is that if you encounter a danger like a snake, they do come together and defend the group as this like massive mob against the snake. So that does happen. And for that, yes, they use vocalizations, and they have very specific snake alarm calls that cause this mobbing response. And all the individuals will stand up and they will come together and they will move in unison. It's almost like a wave. They will come towards the snake and like antagonize it and try to chase it away.
Yes.
And yeah, in many cases, it is just more antagonism. They will try and scare it off.
Sure.
So that it doesn't try and attack their pups, for example. Yeah, so try and defend the group. But obviously, in some cases, they will overpower it. In other cases, for banded mongooses, for instance, they're much bigger. They're one of the biggest mongoose species in the world. And they're a lot more powerful. And still, they do most of their foraging on their own. But they can overpower snakes as a group. So that's where it becomes hunting. And this is where this kind of mutual predation flips back and forth. With pythons, for example, you have one of the biggest snakes in the world, the African rock python. It can grow easily up to 5 or 6 meters in length. You can imagine it's a powerful, and they're just pure muscle, They can constrict you and squeeze you very easily. Even a human they could kill easily if they went for it. So they are a major predator, and they do kill and eat mongooses. But the thing is, if it's a single mongoose, it has no chance against a python. As a group, they can overpower them. And so what they do is, they come together, they start biting and tearing at the python from all directions, and they kill it, and then they can eat it. So this is where these roles can reverse, and they can flip back between them. So this is where you get the mutual predation, right?
Okay.
Sometimes the python wins in certain conditions, if it finds a single mongoose or something like that. In other cases, if you have a group of banded mongooses, and they can have huge packs as well. They have one of the biggest numbers of individuals. They can have up to 50 individuals. Can you imagine 50 big, mongoose that weighs more than a kilo, like the size of a small dog?
Yes.
50 of them swarming a python. I mean, you stand no chance. So
okay, that's an interesting insight, because if we talk this to the non-biologists and non-specialists and who have a limited capacity of understanding this basic biological confrontation between mongoose and a python, we tend to think it's an individual. What about the rest of the literature? So you touch upon a point that in order to beat a gigantic animal, because a python is sizable compared to a meerkat, a banded mongoose, whatever, the only way for them to eat them is through teamwork, right?
Yeah.
And that's, I think, I didn't know about that, and I think that's a solution for them. They think collectively, essentially, in order to take something down.
I mean, again, I would be a little careful in how I would phrase that. They don't think collectively; they still think individually.
Individually, but going.
But
attacking collectively.
Yes.
I understand the phrasing.
No, but also just to clarify the point, because it's easy to then think that, right, they're working together, and so they are all very much altruistic. They're doing it for the good of the group. They're actually not. I mean, that's not necessarily the case. They might still be very selfish in their self-interests, because still, if a python is around and you're a mongoose and you're living with your group, one day the python might just strike at you. So you really don't want the python there. So for your own self-benefit, you want the python gone, or you want to kill it and eat it.
Okay.
So still, they can be quite selfish, even in working together as a group, having very individualistic drivers or motivators for their behavior. But exactly, as you say, they do work together as this big group, and they are able to overpower the python. It depends a little as well. I mean, if they find, for example, a younger python, a baby python, then a single mongoose can take it out. And that happens a lot as well.
But we're saying here during the adult phase.
Yeah, exactly. So, and you can see, and again, you can think of many other examples. For instance, like dolphins versus sharks, something like that. Yeah, where a great white shark or something like that may very easily overpower like a seal or a dolphin or something. But together, they can really take them down. Yeah, and there's many cases like that. For example, with orcas as well. So killer whales are big apex predators.
Sure.
They often attack and bully, pretty much all other whales and all other dolphins, and can kill them and eat them. But when they work together as a pack, a group of dolphins, or for example, whales or other species as well, they can overpower a killer whale by being in a group, by having this group advantage. So so that's often, it's a very common theme in biology across many species. Working as a group, obviously, a team is better than just one.
Yeah, but they still think individually, no matter what.
Yeah. At the end of the day, because if, also if you're aware of some of the classic works like the selfish gene, at the end of the day, evolution and biology and survival is selfish. You are still thinking about your own reproduction and your own kind of evolutionary health in that way of being able to pass on your genes.
Sure.
And so really all in kind of life functions this way at the end of the day.
Right. So in that case, I think we could have asked Disney production to add a bit of the realities of the life of a meerkat when transmitting the Lion King once again. So in that case, because we have the Timon as a meerkat, it would be okay. So Pumbaa and Simba will come and then give us a help to defeat these pythons, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And it's interesting because now that I think about it, I never thought about this before. I don't remember the story of Timon, like what happened to him, but he's a single meerkat. Like usually meerkats are in big groups, obviously, but he's alone. Well, he's with Pumbaa, with the warthog. And yeah, and by the way, that can also happen. I mean, this actual interaction, meerkats and warthogs and other mongooses and warthogs do have this mutualism as well, where the mongooses will clean the warthog. They will take off parasites like ticks from their skin. And so they actually can be friends. At the same time, in the Uganda field site with the banded mongooses, we have records of warthogs killing and eating mongooses, particularly babies. So it's not always a pure friendship. As always in nature, like if you can take advantage of something and get a benefit of it, you will. So warthogs, if it sees that, okay, maybe today I can actually eat the mongoose, sometimes it happens.
Okay, so now please let me take out the ticks and gives a bit of massage and say, yay, massage before dinner.
Yeah, exactly.
So I'm gonna take this. Okay, I'm gonna get ready. I'm gonna take all these, but I want to be fed. But I want you to eat me properly.
Yeah, exactly. If you don't do a good enough job, you get eaten at the end. Yeah.
But speaking of that, did you also interacted with other animals? Because we were talking about warthogs.
Yeah, for sure. Oh man, no, absolutely. I mean, these as well, the field sites themselves are, it's practically wilderness. I mean, the Kalahari field site where they are, it used to be farmland. And so since then it's been, there's been lots of rewilding taking place. So they obviously have left it as it is. Now it's protected. So there's no farming happening there. And hunting only on some of the big antelope species, but everything else is left alone. So you can return back to its natural habitat. And yeah, you have so much stuff there. And then in Uganda, the field site is in a national park. So we had lions, elephants, buffalo, hippos, leopards, pretty much everywhere around us. And you see them. I would have them even come to like the house where I lived there, which was actually the furthest away from the village. And yeah, at nighttime, often I would have lions coming to the house. There was this like pair of two brothers that lived on the peninsula where the field site is. And they would come to the house and I would hear them. They would be roaring outside the window at night, like at 2 a.m. or something. I would hear them roar. And it was just, it was a magical experience. I tell you what, like to, have lions as your alarm clock in the morning, it's crazy.
Wow.
And hippos would come as well. This is something I didn't know before as well. Hippos actually walk around a lot. You think of them as being this really like sedentary animal that lives in just like a river or something and always stays wet in its lake and that's it. No, at nighttime, they go foraging, they go on land and they go munching on bushes, they go grazing on the grass. And again, around the house, because you have to maintain a clearing around it, we would have grass growing. And the hippos would come from the lake, from maybe like a kilometer away. They would walk at night and they would come and they would munch on the grass and be, kind of act like a goat around the house and maintain our lawn. And so it's crazy. Yeah, you had a lot of interactions like this. That's why you have to be also a little bit careful at the field site in Uganda. You can't really go on your own out into the bush. You have to go with a car, ideally with other people as well, because you might come across a leopard or something like that, and then it's a little bit dangerous. But then also you learn tricks of how to deal with all these animals in the wild. And yeah, for most of them, there are certain, as I say, tricks, but yeah, really understanding of their behavior, how you can deal with them so you avoid any risk and it's quite safe. And yeah, no, man, it was great. At the Kalahari site as well, we had lots of snakes, which was really good for me. I mean, I was seeing like Cape cobras and all these other species that they have there, sand snakes and house snakes and puff adders and all this stuff. And yeah, no, there's a lot of diversity there. There's all the bird life as well, all the insects that you find there. As I said before, antelope species. You can sometimes see, it's rare, but you can see, for example, porcupines. In theory, even they have like pangolins and caracals and all of these other animals that really are super, super hard to see. But by being there for such a long time, also, you increase your chances, of course. It's like the odds of seeing something increases. So yeah, no, it's super special.
And I do think that is, as long as you love what you do, these are these experiences that adds to your PhD thesis, and then what comes afterwards. I think that is something that fulfills this journey of doing something, and where you get funding from it, you get the opportunity, even though it's 4 years. At least you get the chance to see some of these beautiful things that you don't get too many chances to see it.
Yeah, no, 100%. And no, I mean, and you know what? That's why it took me 4 years, because I tried to have 2 field seasons. I went back. I could have had just one, and it would have been, I think, just about enough data
Sure.
For what I wanted to do. But I was like, you know what? I have the chance. I have the opportunity. Why not? And I went back again to South Africa for a second time, and also went to Namibia. I got invited to visit the research place there. And no, it was fantastic. You just see, and it's such a new experience as well. I mean, as I say, it was my first time in Africa, and it was my first time in a proper desert environment as well.
Wow.
I mean, the Kalahari is not a true desert because it gets a bit too much rain for that, but still, you know, you have sand dunes and all the wildlife that you would expect in a desert. And then Namibia is even crazier. I mean, that's super dry. So you find maybe like 1 tree per 100 square kilometers. It's crazy. But it's such a unique experience. And then obviously also with the local people and the culture as well, it's fantastic.
Wow. Did you get also to know any of the tribal groups there? Any tribes?
A little bit. It's tricky, obviously, because you're there working with the animals on the field site, and it's a bit of a bubble in that sense, that you're not really as exposed to the local cultures because they don't really come into the field site, and
of course.
But at the same time, yeah, no, absolutely. And especially at the Kalahari field site, there are local staff that are actually, some of them used to work as trackers in a nearby national park.
Oh, okay.
And I know one of them is a good friend of mine who is originally from the Khoisan people, which are, the Khoisan are like the original kind of desert living tribal people. They were originally quite nomadic as well, so they used to be really relying on the land. And he knows it so well. You watch him go around the site, and he can pick up tracks, and he can tell you what animal it is, how fast it was going, how big it is. Like, all of this information they can gather from like the tiniest clues. And it's really incredible. So that was really special. And then in Uganda, they don't get volunteers coming from Europe. They have actually a permanent staff of, I think currently it's 7 or 8 people, something like that are all local Ugandans. They're from there. They know the place really well. And most of them have worked on the project for at least a decade. So they know obviously everything there as well. And they're connected to the local villages. They know all of the local customs and everything, because of course that's their home. And so working alongside them was also super special, because they just tell you all of this information. And we would go into the village and get like chapati in the morning together. And they would tell me things. Some of them also, they had friends in the local kind of fishing village, and they would occasionally bring me fish as well to eat, and it was good. I mean, you learn so much from that.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, again, these are the experiences that I think it makes a PhD thesis so fulfilling.
Yeah.
So when you were still doing your field research, did you also go to other places in South Africa, like Durban or Johannesburg? Did you also go to Lesotho as well?
Lesotho. No, so I did a little bit of traveling. Obviously, especially in the first field season, I was still a bit also kind of concerned with the fact that I need to actually get the work done. Like, I need to spend as much time as possible at the field site doing my experiments, in case something goes wrong, in case it's not enough.
Sure.
You worry about that, because obviously if you don't get enough, then you can't get the PhD. Like, that's it, game over. So so there's more worry. In the second field season, I was a lot more relaxed, so I did a lot more traveling then. And I managed to go to a few places. Near the field site, we have 2 main national parks, which are fantastic. One called Ochrabis, which is named after a big waterfall there. And in the Khoisan language, Okhrabis means like big noise. Because of the noise that the waterfall makes, you can hear it from like miles away. And it's gorgeous. Like that's one of my favorite places in the world, I think, for sure. Okhrabis is just beautiful. And then the other place is the Khalkhadi Transfrontier Park, which basically sits on the borders between South Africa, Namibia and Botswana. Most of it is actually in Botswana. And it's a huge area of land. It's one of the biggest national parks, if not in the world, I mean, certainly in South Africa. And it's fantastic. And that's where also you get a lot of the big animals. So you get lions there, you get cheetahs, hyenas, all these kind of typical animals that you would expect in Africa. And it's beautiful. So I got to drive there. I went for a very short time, but I spent 3 days in the park. And my main goal for me was to try and find the 3 big cats. So lion, leopard and cheetah. And I managed to do it. I found pretty much one per day. I found leopards first day, lion second day, and then cheetah I just about managed to find before leaving the park on the 3rd day. I was like, man, this is mission complete. And then also the other place I went to is an area called Graskop, which is kind of on the eastern side of South Africa, above Johannesburg, above Pretoria, kind of going towards Kruger National Park. It's up in the mountains. It's what's called the Drakensberg Mountains. They kind of stretch all around South Africa and they reach up past Joburg. And it's a really beautiful area. It's very different. It was super cold when I was there. It's up high in the mountains. They get snow in the winter. So it's kind of the different thing of what you imagine usually from Africa. And yeah, that was super cool. I went with a good friend of mine. We went looking for snakes. We tried to find a species of viper that lives there, the Berg adder. And we did. We found quite a few of them. And it was super cool. And we managed to see servals in the wild, which are super cool. Servals are these, for anyone who doesn't know, they're kind of like a small wild cat.
Sure.
Spotted and really beautiful. And we saw a mother with, I think it was 3 cubs with her. And it was just, oh my God, especially like the kittens, they were so cute. I would never have expected to see that in the wild. So it was super special. And then, as I say, I managed to go to Namibia for a bit as well and kind of did a little tour of Namibia. Again, mostly looking for snakes because that's what I love. But I also visited a field site there called Gobabeb. It's also a field site. It has existed for 40 years, maybe at least. Maybe more, maybe like 50 years, a long time. And they have a long data as well on climate. So they've tracked climate change in the desert. They were one of the main and one of the first places in the world actually that were recording changes in arid zones and arid climates. Wow. So yeah, and I was lucky to visit them and to kind of learn from them. Yeah, no, I tried to do some traveling where I could, for sure, because you just have to. You're there.
I think that's reasonable. And also said, because I had also opportunities to go each year to Oxford to do research and wanted to see what's around. Oxford is a small city and see around what's around. I've visited the majority of the museums as possible during the week that I was living there for the time, and that's what it is about. So what you've done is someone's using an annual salary to go and do a safari.
I mean, more or less, except I don't have a salary because I'm self-funded, so it was a lot trickier than that.
Yeah. So how much did you have to apply for funding given by Swansea Uni or from also external?
Yeah, it's tricky.
Sources?
So as I say, luckily for me, I managed to reach agreements with the people running these field sites. So most of my fieldwork actually didn't really have a cost at all because I was given basically everything there for free. I could do my experiment. I could live there. I could got the food and everything. And in exchange worked part-time for them. Yes. Which was very intense, I will say, for sure, especially in the first field season in South Africa. I would sleep maybe like 4 or 5 hours per night for like easily at least 2 of the 3 months. I had that sort of schedule, and every day I would go out either doing my own experiments or collecting data for them. I think I worked, can't remember how much, I think it was like 5 days a week or something for them, and the 2 days, like weekend days or whatever, I would have for my own experiments. So I was working all the time, and it was intense. But it meant that I had pretty much no costs. Yes. And then here in Swansea, I'm employed by the university, as I think maybe you are as well. So I could...
as a staff member.
Yeah. So I worked as what's it called? A research assistant, or RA. So as a demonstrator.
Okay.
So you could do. I helped in, for example, like practical courses, computer labs, marking as well. Some of the work of students, and you get paid for this.
Yeah.
And it's actually pretty good pay. Like it's okay. So so overall, it was fairly sustainable to do all of this without any major funding. And then for us as research students, you get, I think, £1,000 allocated per year for, you can use it for experimental costs or for conferences as well. I've used it, for example, I go to Zurich every year for the annual Meerkat conference that happens there, because that's where the field, the group that manages the field site is based. It's at the University of Zurich. And and so we go there every year, and it's good to see everyone, and it's a lovely place. So so you can use some funds for that, but it's tricky. Yeah, if you're self-funded, it's very tricky. Would not recommend. But at the same time, it does give you more freedom.
Yeah,
I know other people who have funding or who have sponsors for the PhDs. They are very limited in what they can do because they have to agree it with the funders. It's set out for a very specific project, so you don't get this kind of creativity and freedom that you can otherwise. So everything has, its advantages and disadvantages.
Don't forget to check that episode where I speak about the difference between funded and self-funded PhDs. So make a note of that.
Yeah, exactly. And it's something important for people to understand, right?
Yeah.
And you do a great job of this in your podcast, for example. It's actually showing what are the different pathways in PhDs. And it's so varied, right? It's so diverse across disciplines as well, especially.
Yeah. You said also to me once when we had several conversations that you have a YouTube channel and you could join also your photography hobby. I'm assuming that you've taken lots of pictures. Did you also document these onto your channel? And what is the name, by the way?
So I'll tell kind of the quick background story to this as well. That it's not really just, to me, it's not just the YouTube channel.
Okay.
It's the idea behind it. It's called Diary of the Adventurer. And it's very much, I try to do it in this kind of diary format of really, I guess, again, inspired by people like Steve Irwin, who would take their audience with them and put them in the middle of the action and being like, okay, this is the animal. This is how you can interact with it. This is what happens. And try to do much of the same is take you with me. And it's all very much kind of quite casual, I guess, in the diary format. And it started actually not even as film or as videos or anything like that. It started as articles. I used to write articles for magazines.
Oh, okay.
It started at school, actually, when I was back in Spain. Then when I moved to boarding school in England, I wrote for the school magazine. Then when I moved to undergrad, to uni at my college at Pembroke, we had a magazine that they worked with, and I published some articles there. And that was the original. So the articles were called Diary of the Adventurer.
Wow.
And so then from there, the next step, obviously, because I had all the photographs and everything, I could use them in the articles. And then the logical next step is, you can film as well. Yeah. And nowadays, most people are not really interested in reading something for a long time, and people have perhaps shorter attention spans. Yeah, exactly. So you need it to be visual. You need to show it, and film is a good resource for that.
But in the end, would you compile everything that you've said into a book?
Into a book? I would love to. It's also something that I've never really spoken about much before, but I have actually for now many years. Now I've abandoned it a little during my PhD and during undergrad before, but I was actually working on writing a book on really as a memoir, as an autobiography of some of my adventures, some of my experiences with wildlife.
Oh, that's nice.
Maybe one day I'll come back to it. I think for now my focus is on Diary of the Adventure, on the episodes, on the documentaries that I try to make. Yeah. And I have filmed a lot for that. So wherever I go, whenever I travel, really, I try to film with animals. Sure. In Africa, I did a lot of filming during my fieldwork as well, because you would see something cool happen, and I'd be like, okay, let's film it. So then later, when I eventually get around to editing and producing it, because that takes ages as well. I'm sure you know as well.
Sure.
Even with podcasts, to cut it all together and everything, it takes a while. And with documentaries, I try to also put music to it, even sometimes compose music for it myself and do all of these things. And it takes a long time. And I keep getting distracted with other things. And I had to work on my PhD before that, work on my undergrad.
Sure.
And I'm trying to find time for it as best as I can, but it takes a long time.
It takes a long time.
Yeah.
And, but I think, as you said, as long as you are passionate in what you do, combining both worlds, yes, it takes time, but it requires lots of patience. But then that comes when you develop those skills, it becomes fast and fast.
Yeah.
Right.
And I think also to me, it does come quite naturally too. Again, from when I was quite young, I would always try and almost narrate with animals and kind of try and present them to, say, to my mum or so, to people. And then I got my first video camera, I remember, and I would start filming. I remember I was in Cyprus and I would find these geckos along this old wall in Paphos, and I would find the geckos and I'd show them on camera and be like, okay, so this is this type of gecko, and look, it has the sticky pads, and try to talk about it.
No, but that's the nice.
Yeah,
that's a good
you build
thing.
up like that, and that's what I've always kind of loved doing as well. And as you say, it comes hand in hand. So I would love to continue, and I will continue with that as long as I possibly can, for sure. There are many new exciting projects that will be coming out, so stay tuned as well. I don't know if so subscribe to Diary of Adventure or whatever, but absolutely, it's exciting.
Make sure students and graduates to check out his YouTube channel, Diaries of the Adventurer. And I do have an activity for you as well.
Yeah, tell me.
So I'll share it now. So you've been partnered with the YouTuber named Casual Geographic. I'm sure you've heard of him. And he blends humor related to the hood culture, right? Going on the streets, and uses these specific slang terms into the animal world, which is humoristic and it's quite fun. But then you've been partnered with him to create an incredible video that is packed with compelling, humoristic, and engaging research about your PhD topic. And then your research video with Casual Geographic is going to be so much fun, and it'll feature the amazing humor about the hood mentality of meerkats and other types of mongooses towards snakes, and your experiences not only in Africa, but also in Swansea Uni, specifically in the Faculty of Biology. How would you structure this video?
Yeah. Okay. It's an interesting challenge, I think. Yeah. I mean, the main thing I would say first is obviously, you have to balance humor, and the way he presents things is really good. I think it expands it to a wider audience.
Yes.
Because you have all the memes that come from it, and all these things that make it funny and make it engaging and entertaining in a different way to normal documentaries. And I think, in fact, actually, I recently saw he made a video about what I was saying before about orcas and dolphins fighting.
I saw that one too.
And their gang wars, which is almost identical to mongooses and snakes. I mean, so it's almost exactly the same. So it's showing the dynamics of these interactions. The way I would approach it as well is still try and pay attention, because obviously I'll be involved with it, and I could advise that you don't try to dramatize these interactions too much either, because that's the pitfall. It's very easy to dramatize it and say, oh, look, they're fighting to the death. Look at what's happening. And the mongoose is launching out the snake and this. No, and that's not the reality of it. I mean, in most interactions of mongooses and snakes, they both come out alive and they just go their separate ways, right? Because again, they have this threat discrimination, so they don't really want to get in trouble. So it would be to show more the complexity and kind of the dynamics of these, and how we can, this concept of mutual predation, right? Which at first is difficult to understand. But as I guess maybe happened with you now as well, in our talk today, that you can start seeing how it can so easily change. And so perhaps showing videos of, in some cases the python wins and it gets an individual mongoose. But then, the group comes back and they're like, hey, what's up?
Yeah.
We're in the hood now. And they beat up the python, basically. So, and that's pretty much what happens. That's what can very easily happen. So addressing it from that side, but like not dramatizing it too much would be very important to this.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I think especially showing this dynamics and how nature is very flexible. So it's very important to show people, I think, especially kids. I mean, because in school you learn about the food chain and everything is very straightforward and linear. And actually it's not the case. Food chains can be quite flexible. You have so many of these like cross interactions and showing the dynamics. And also what's something that quite cool you can do is you can show different personalities of the mongooses because they do differ, as I say. For example, the yellow mongooses, personally, I believe, are so much smarter than meerkats. You can see, I mean, they're faster, they're more intelligent. And with a video like this, especially having so much humor and comedy behind it, you can very easily, have almost like these characters as different mongooses and show their approach to snakes and highlight how, maybe someone is actually a bit smarter and they'd be like, you know what, that snake is a bit of a risk, or, actually I have resistance. This cobra means nothing to me, just go and punch it and that's it. And something, thinking of like, I don't know, whatever gangs, I don't know what happens in the hoods, but like whatever, so you can like come and get it. And you can show a lot of this, I think. So my approach would be almost to kind of space it out like this, and you can introduce the players, as it were, the different characters of the mongooses and the snakes, and then build up to showing these interactions and what can affect them as well. And then you bring in all the experience and context-driven behaviors that you can see and build it up that way. So then actually, at the end, when you watch the video, you might see that it is quite simple. I mean, at the end of the day, all they're trying to do is survive. They're trying to get some food. If they can, then they will. If they can't, then they just, they bully them. They try and chase the snake away, protect their pups. Again, like group mentality and, and go their separate ways. And life continues and, you go back in the hood or whatever, and that's it.
And I think that would be a very plausible conclusion to say, okay, they are great animals, but they also have their street mentality or hood mentality, and then we in the hood, but also we are trying to protect ourselves from dangerous species.
Exactly, and life continues.
And life continues.
Exactly.
So I think that this would be a great video if it was to be made, of course.
Yeah, I mean, like Casual Geographic, if you're listening, happy to collaborate.
Exactly. Make Casual Geographic. Make a collab with Nikita, because I think he would be a great biologist to share you some more insights about mongooses and maybe provide more videos about it.
I mean, equally anyone else who wants to collaborate, I'm very open to that.
Okay.
For sure. Not something that I have done so much yet, because also I tend to travel and do all of my adventures on my own, so you just kind of tend to do it all yourself. But I would love to get involved with other bigger projects that way.
So in that case, what are you trying to, what message are you trying to send with your PhD thesis?
With my thesis, I think most of these things that I was just saying, that it's important to understand the dynamics of interactions between species. So basically, as I've been saying, naturally everything interacts with each other, and we still don't know a lot of the complexity of these interactions. And why it's important is because only through understanding this can we better protect the ecosystems, for example, for conservation. We need to understand which animals may be more resistant to change, for instance, or may be more prone to actually being impacted by changes in populations. So, for example, if there's drought, and a lot of insects like termites die out, the mongooses won't have a food source. So then they will resort to eating more and more dangerous prey, and they will resort to killing snakes. So then the snake population will plummet, but then something else will happen as a result of it. So understanding these interactions is super important for that, for the ecology and conservation, but also because it relates to us as well, to humans. I mean, even specifically for this case, humans interact with snakes around the world. Snake bite is the neglected tropical disease, as like described by the WHO, for example. And lots of people get bitten every year by snakes. I think easily more than 5 million people get bitten, and at least about 100,000 people die from snake bite every year. So understanding how these animals interact, what their behaviors are like, what we can learn from their interactions with mongooses, for example, how to maybe chase them away, how to repel snakes from villages so we don't get in contact with them. It's really important. And it's something that might help humans as well. And also it helps us understand our own cognitive processes too, because we have the same mechanisms, interestingly enough. We have, for example, snake detection theory. It's kind of a field of research that has been developed. And it started in humans. There's a lot of work that's been done in humans in how we respond to being shown images of snakes, for example, how our brain reacts, what actually goes on. And there's some fascinating things that they found. They found, for example, that fear of snakes is not innate. It's not genetic. We develop fear culturally.
Yeah.
And they did it with babies. So they showed baby snakes in the presence of or in the absence of other adults in the room. And the babies would watch the adults if they were present, especially their parents. And if they showed disgust to the snakes, the baby would immediately react, and it would also show disgust. It would show fear to the snake. If they didn't, if they had no input like that, the baby would be fine. It would just be like, okay, this is a snake. Let me just play with it or whatever. It's fine.
Sure.
So we build this up, and so we can understand this, and we can compare it to mongooses as well. And we can build up a more universal, perhaps, understanding of some of these processes that go on, because we both co-evolved with snakes. And it's very interesting. And for example, what I found with mongooses is actually they are different. In captivity, for example, all of their reactions, the first reaction to the models was, or at least doesn't seem to be, driven by the type of snake it is, or even by it being a snake. Rather, it is driven by the movement of the model. So mongooses, it seems, are a lot more movement-oriented to the initial recognition, to the initial spotting of the snake. Whereas all the human research has shown that actually it is the snake shape, it is the pattern of this serpentine body that we're immediately drawn to, that our brain is predisposed to detect. Even if it's not with fear, still it's kind of the alert response is there, that is genetic. And so we will very easily spot a snake even in a very complex background. And so that seems to differ, for example, between mongooses and humans. And it's something quite interesting. Then you can ask why, how has our evolution perhaps led to this in different ways? So there's a lot to learn from it.
And I think it's an endless knowledge, and because we keep evolving and we keep knowing more and more about wild animals, that there's be more research from over the next decade that we learned in school and in documentaries as well. And it will keep evolving, as we were saying about fear and whether the babies would react or not. It is something truly insightful, and I think this is a good way to educate ourselves and teaching the next generations how we can behave and interact, and how can we learn also from wild animal interaction.
Yeah, no, for sure. There's still a lot to learn. And you can see even big projects, the BBC does all these documentary series, right? And they've really made an effort in recent years, I feel, to show new behaviors, to really showcase new research and these animal interactions that previously we knew nothing about. And more keeps coming out of it. It's, as you say, it's really fascinating. There's a lot more to learn.
Do you have a day for the Viva?
Almost, yeah. It will be quite soon.
But then will you stay in the UK for over the couple years, or are you planning to move to maybe to South Africa and go to Kalahari Desert?
Yeah, I mean, as I say, that's kind of what I live for. I want to be out in the field. I want to be interacting with wildlife, learning about their behaviors, and and obviously sharing it with people. That's what I would love to do.
And
I need to be in the field.
Once you've passed your Viva, obviously celebration will happen, and then you would let us know when you actually leave. But before that, I have something that I would love you to get a signature from, because we don't know whether you stay here because you said you want to be in the wild and checking on the animals. So I brought this Welsh flag of mine, which contains all the signatures.
Oh, wow.
Of the many people that I've met so far over the past 6 years or so, since I've been here since the 10th of October.
Oh, wow.
So if you could sign around here, you can see lots of people that I've signed already. Obviously, some of them are from the UK, of course, but I have people from other parts of the world as well.
This.
So I got the pen. You can write in Spanish because it makes it more original.
Yeah, sure. This is super cool. Look at this.
Yeah. So seeing the students and graduates over there.
Oh yeah. For anyone, because this will be, I guess, on camera for anyone not on camera, there's this massive Welsh flag, which is super cool.
You can write on the dragon. So.
Oh, but maybe I'll write like somewhere.
Yeah, is it tricky for you to sign it because of the?
Yeah. Oh wait. Also, I don't want to like.
No, you won't, because that permanent marker doesn't go over the.
It doesn't go through, does it?
No, it doesn't go through. No.
Okay, that's good. We don't want to destroy the setup.
Let's not destroy
Shall we put the paper?
The furniture. Yeah, maybe you can just put it over there.
Yeah, sounds good. Just so I'm aware of the table. Otherwise, Jared will kill us. Shout out, by the way, to the studio and everything where we are.
No, we're really appreciated for having the studio, and obviously we weren't expecting. I didn't know that this even existed until now. I will have a look afterwards when I get home, because after the talk I need to do some research.
Feels very official as well. I'm signing a document on camera. I'll probably cut this part out of the podcast.
And you become like Donald Trump, and then you show the flag, and then there he goes. That's the proof.
Yeah, I do very much support Wales. Actually, I was talking to someone recently. I have a Welsh friend. Was saying, it's really important to understand the local identity, and this quite, I guess, nationalistic feeling, but very rightfully so.
Yes.
That, Wales is a separate country. They have their own identity. They have their own culture and everything, and it's something that's really a lot of people take for granted, people who don't know as well.
Yeah.
Like even me coming from abroad, obviously I'm not from here.
Me neither.
Yeah, exactly. So it's something that we really need to appreciate. So this is super cool. I mean, this is,
Are you drawing a mongoose?
No, I'm drawing a snake. It's like, in most things that I sign or something, I tend to do a little cobra drawing.
Oh.
Mongoose. I'm not really good at drawing, so mongoose is a bit complicated to draw in a moment's notice. Oh, there you go. It's a little cobra. Oh, this is awesome. Okay. Yeah.
No.
Oh, there you go.
There you go. Representing Wales.
Let's go. Oh, Simro Ambith. Okay, well, there you go.
Thank you very much.
Yeah,
and
thank you for the honor of signing.
That is my honor. And to wrap up, just tell us, what advice do you have for those who are tuning in and are still undecided whether they want to go for a PhD?
Yeah, I think it's a huge commitment for sure. And as I was saying before, it can be quite difficult. Obviously, I only know about my experience in experimental science, in biology, and it can be a little tricky. But I mean, if it's something you're passionate about, if it's something that you think you want to do, honestly do it. Like it's a great experience. I'm sure you agree.
Yeah.
And you learn so much. And yes, there may be times you struggle. There will be times for sure that you struggle. Let's rephrase that. And there will be most things that you don't really know much about to begin with. When you start, you will be uncertain about most things. Be like, what do I do with this? But you'll learn, and it's fine. And everyone learns. It's okay. You can get advice. Speak to your supervisors as well. Use your supervisors, I would say. And also before, I think when you're looking for PhDs, this is also, I feel, quite important, especially in the sciences, perhaps, is you really need to find a good, friendly supervisor. Maybe even try to talk to some of their previous PhD students about what's their experience like. How are they as a supervisor? How is this person? I think that does help a lot. And yeah, kind of see what vibe you're getting from the research group, because it may be the perfect one for your like niche interest, but it just might not be a good atmosphere or something like that. And then you'll struggle more. And, why put yourself through that? For me, I was extremely lucky that when I was looking for PhDs and sending emails and trying to communicate with a lot of professors, I received a reply from my supervisor here, from Kevin Arbuckle, and it was the most enthusiastic email I have ever received from an academic.
wow.
I was like, he has so many ideas and he wants to discuss them with us. And it felt so good. It felt so special at the time. I really felt like I was wanted, and it feels good, So when you get that, you just kind of have to go for it. The other advice I would give whilst actually doing the PhD, this I guess goes also particularly for experimental science, is that really try to write as early as possible. Even if it's not writing out full chapters, it doesn't matter. But whatever you're doing, especially with analysis of results, it doesn't have to be perfect, as I said before. Get it to some sort of stage, some sort of level, and then just send it off to like your supervisors or submit it or whatever to like publications or something, and just kind of forget it, move on to other things, and just try and do that as much as possible, because it is very easy, especially in science, I suppose, to kind of keep trying to add things, improve the results. You have to do statistics on it, and you think, okay, which model do I use? What stats? How do I prove this, or how do I show that? And it's easy to get bogged down and focus so much on that you actually kind of lose track of, okay, I'm just trying to show this, like this is the overall message that I'm trying to show. And that's good. It's enough. You get the results, send them to your supervisor. That's fine. Move on. It's something that I really struggled with. Hence, and you hear this advice all the time, start writing as early as possible.
Yeah.
And you don't listen, and no one ever listens. And then you end up in like your fourth year and you have to write the whole thesis, and it's crazy. So it wasn't quite as dramatic for me, but almost it's...
How many words did you have to write your thesis?
So in the end, my thesis is, I don't remember exactly. I think it's with references like all together. I think it's around 70-something thousand words. So it's not huge, but for a scientific thesis, I think that is quite a lot. But without, references take maybe like 10,000 words.
Alongside
so it's
with your experiences in the field. You also did conduct your podcast as well. You come here too often because we didn't speak, but
yeah, that's true. That's the other thing that I was involved with earlier this year. We started with Lucy Murphy, who also, massive shout out. She's amazing. She's now started her PhD as well. So maybe one day you should have her on the podcast too.
Yeah, that would be great.
And yeah, together we started the Baffling Biology podcast, which again, also everyone should go and check out. It's really good. And the idea behind that is, much like yourself, to bring people on and just allow them to share what interests them, what baffles them in biology. And it's been super fascinating. I think it's been great. But tell you what, also, it's been such a learning experience for me. I was super nervous at the beginning to come on as an interviewer and as one of the co-hosts of the podcast, because I don't know, I feel like I would much rather actually get interviewed than interview, because it's a skill. It's a skill you pick up.
is.
It's a skill you develop because you obviously want to get the most out of the person and you want to get the interesting stories and the kind of the funny things and the kind of the fascinating things. And you spend a lot of time, I'm sure you do as well, in planning out the questions and what you want to ask, how to kind of structure the interview. And it's difficult. It is really difficult. It's something I had to learn, but it's something that I really wanted to learn, and Lucy did too. So luckily we kind of joined forces and started it. And then since then, I mean, it's become a huge thing as well. And she's running it really, really brilliantly. It will keep growing, I'm sure.
And I think that's the best thing. You have an idea, you start. Now you're doing a podcast, and that's what is the cultural trend nowadays. You start a
That's
podcast
true.
on
They
any
are popular,
type.
eh?
It's just not alongside YouTube, of course, but now this is a novelty, to say the least. And it's not even 20 years it has. So
Yeah, for sure. So it's, yeah, I guess like it's something that I'm really bad with is jumping on trends like this.
Yeah.
I'm always, I think, a bit too late or just don't care enough because I want to share with people my passion for animals and show them animals.
sure.
But then I don't really know how, like I would much rather go in the fields, as I say, and like catch snakes and do whatever. That's what I know how to do. This, I really don't know how to do. Like, so it's been a learning experience for sure and something so important. But yeah, absolutely.
And I think it's a nice message to end up the podcast, our talk at the PhD Lounge. Do you have any social media besides sharing Baffling Biology, the Diaries of an Adventurer?
Yeah, I mean,
Any other projects as well? You've referred previously. But
yeah, I mean, I try not to use social media too much. Again, I may be a bit old school in that way. It just takes too much time, man.
Yeah.
Recently I did get Instagram, but I've not posted anything on it, for example. So like I tried to set up the page for Diary of the Adventurer on Instagram.
Okay.
But as I said, like I've not done anything with it. So
Sure.
yeah, honestly, don't like at the moment it's a bit stale. But yeah, I don't know. Honestly, if you want to find me, just find me on like LinkedIn or something. It's probably the easiest platform. And yeah, and on Diary of the Adventurer, as I say, that's where my main focus will be. I want to shift to producing a lot more because I have a backlog of many years, maybe almost like a decade of filming. And I've done almost nothing with it. And so many projects I've filmed in Peru, in Madagascar, in Africa, and in lots of different other places. And I want to get those out. So that's, I think, maybe the main place to follow. But also going back to advice for PhD and in general, just to add to this, is that I think people, when you're doing your PhD, it's very easy to focus on what you're doing and be like, okay, I have to produce something. I have to work on the thesis. And I know a lot of, like most people here, for example, in my department or in research groups are very focused on their work. But it's also a really good time, probably perhaps the last time you will get in academia, to focus on other things, to join other societies, to try different things, because you're still a student, you still have a lot of flexibility, you still get all the free stuff that students get, at universities and all this kind of stuff. And it's really special. And really, you won't get another opportunity because, I mean, even if you stay in academia, you will become a postdoc or a professor and you will have all the hassle and all the work that comes with it and a lot of limitations that you can't just, go and socialize with your students as a professor. It's a bit weird. So, so I think it's a great opportunity for that. Is actually get involved. Yes, your PhD matters and yes, it's important. At the same time, look after yourself, as well, like mental health and everything. But still try new things. I think I always try and expand. This year, for example, very randomly, I tried ice skating. I tried to start learning figure skating as a very random thing. And I've loved it, to be honest. So honestly, just try and expand, like go on podcasts, go gain experience with public speaking as well. It's so important for any career, I think.
Yes,
gaining that confidence to speak, to present to a large audience or even in a conversation like this. I would highly advise it. Gaining things like this.
And I think that what the concept of the PhD nowadays is and will remain as such, many people speak networking, but it's also public speaking, doing something on your own. write a blog, do a podcast, write an article that doesn't need to be for a journal, just to train yourself. You have 4 years or even 5 of your PhD, and I think the message I was trying to say is do the most of what you can during this journey, because then you might not be able to further this. Maybe if you're lucky, you'll be going forward on what you do.
Yeah, I think you'll thank yourself later.
Yeah.
But yeah, obviously balance is very important.
Balance.
Something I've struggled with myself as well. Like especially as a field biologist, you don't really get a personal life, so it's been something that I have truly struggled with. So it's finding that, I think, the balance that you want in life, and if you're passionate for it at the end of the day, it's much easier.
Nikita, Bedov, enhorabuena for your PhD thesis.
Gracias.
And looking forward to hear about the Viva, and muchas gracias.
Yeah, we'll have to celebrate.
For coming here. And yes, we'll have a celebration in your own Spanish way, the Marbella way. And I look forward to hear any updates. So thank you, man.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me.
And that was my fantastic late night talk with Nikita Bedov, sharing his PhD experience and research on mongooses, snakes, mutual predation systems, and threat discrimination. To be honest with you, I have never thought that mongooses could be on the list of predators and their interactions with other predators, including snakes in this context. Nikita's talk made me realize that not only big wild animals as well as snakes are on the predator tier list, but also mongooses and probably other small-sized wild animals who seem to have docile and cute faces, but can turn ugly when it comes to battle for food. A huge thank you for him to be available to have this late night talk, and all the best in his new endeavors after his Viva Voce and eventual corrections. Nikita's talk will be released soon on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and YouTube, and you can follow him on his LinkedIn and Instagram pages, subscribe to his YouTube channel, Diary of the Adventurer, and follow his podcast, Baffling Biology. If you have enjoyed tuning into this session, you can also check my other late night talks and solo sessions at my website, phdlounge.co.uk, where you can also follow my socials, LinkedIn, Luís Maia, and Instagram, PhD-LMF. Last but not least, if you're a PhD candidate, post-PhD scholar, or doctoral entrepreneur, and would like to be featured or would like to have a business collab, then send me an email at luisphdlounge@gmail.com. Thank you all for tuning in. It has been a pleasure.
And being like, okay, this is the animal, this is how you can interact with it, this is what happens, and try to do much of the same is take you with me. And it's all very much kind of quite casual, I guess, in the diary format. And it started actually not even as film or as videos or anything like that. It started as articles. I used to write articles for magazines.
Oh, okay.
It started at school, actually, when I was back in Spain. Then when I moved to boarding school in England, I wrote for the school magazine.